Everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
And we're back. This is Experts on Call featuring Intact Insurance. You're listening to CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Thanks for joining us today. Here in the studio, along with myself, is Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance in Richmond and broker Sanjeev Katoch, our life insurance specialist. So far, we've covered some of the basics about life insurance and establishing that we definitely have choices when trying to choose a product or find a product that's best for us. And hopefully, in our last conversation, we helped debunk some of the myths about insurance. Now, in this portion of the show, we're going to be talking about the very unique aspects of disability insurance versus critical illness insurance. So let's start with the definitions first. What actually is critical illness insurance?
Well, Joanne, critical illness insurance is the insurance to cover medical conditions and diseases. So the critical illness will pay you a tax-free lump. So after this coverage is in place, typically most of the companies in the market would cover you for 25 to 28 different major illnesses and conditions. So yeah, if you see, Joanne, 30 years ago, we would buy a lot of life insurance because we were more concerned about dying than possibility of surviving a serious illness. Due to the advances in medicine, 80% of people survive such critical illness like cancer, heart attack, stroke, Alzheimer's disease now. So it's very important thing to consider.
Oh yes, because we're living longer now than we did 50 years ago.
Yeah. So it'll cover you for a certain premium. It'll cover you for from 25 to 28 different illnesses, and for the period of time you are covered for. The option is for 10 years, 20 years, and even more.
Depending on your age.
Depending on your age.
Yeah.
Correct.
And your medical conditions.
Yeah, and the problem is that as Sanjeev says, I was one of those. I mean, I bought a ton of life insurance way back when, but I wised up and I actually bought some. Being in the business, I was when critical illness first came out. I bought something, and my policy now is gold from what I see in premiums. But the point is, people don't think about surviving after the fact. Prior, all we thought about was, well, I want to make sure my wife's looked after and she's got lots of money. But if you get sick, the life insurance doesn't pay you anything. You've got to now. If you've survived a cancer or a stroke, and now if you had a stroke and you're partially paralyzed, you can't necessarily work, which is what we're going to talk about disability next, but which is another form of payment. But the critical illness gives you a lump sum payment to cover the expenses that might be occur afterwards. Like for instance, maybe you need your car changed so that it's wheelchair accessible. Well, where does that money come from if you don't have that?
So this is about, it's a type of program, critical illness insurance is about being proactive. So if we've chosen to ignore the possibility of getting cancer or whatever, it's something we want in place now before we move on to sort of the next phase of our life.
Yeah, unfortunately, 40% of women and 45% of men will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their life. 62% of those will survive for 5 or more years. The question is, what will your quality of life be at that point in time? It's medicine can do a lot of things, and you may survive, but in what state will you be in?
Sure, there could be other complications, and those stats you said are just for cancer.
Yeah, so as Sanjeev says, it covers anywhere from 25 to 29 different kinds of items. So the big concern these days is we've been talking about is Alzheimer's. If you get Alzheimer's, you're looking at potentially living 5-10 years in a rather dismal state. And that's
requiring a certain level of care.
Right, and that's so. Do you want that care to be given only by your family, or do you want to have the ability to pay for that and keep so your family doesn't feel guilty about the quality of care and you're able to survive? They're looked after.
So this is interesting. So critical illness, it'll pay you a lump sum payment should the unforeseen happen. What can you spend that on? Is that specifically towards your care, or how does that work?
Not necessarily. You can use it the way you want it. You can use it to get best treatment for yourself. unfortunately, if that's a terminal illness and you feel like going out and enjoy your rest of the life, you can spend that money to go to Europe or to
You can go on a cruise.
to go on a cruise where you like. So yeah, that's a payment they'll give you, and you have a choice the way you want to spend it.
Or we say post disease care as well. So like, for instance,
If you had to hire a nurse,
well, or put a ramp on your house because you're now in a wheelchair.
Yeah, good point.
Or hire nurses to look after you afterwards. So all the kinds of things. It's your money to use to make your life
How you wish.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I wasn't even aware of that. Obviously, it provides some peace of mind and just allows you to recover without a lot of stress, right? So you've covered off the cancer diagnosis or the bad health diagnosis. Is it too late to get coverage? If I've just got my diagnosis today for a life-threatening disease, can I still go out and get a critical illness package?
The diseases that they are covering should not be pre-existing. That's the number one rule. So that's why it's advisable to have this in place when you're fit and you're not yet diagnosed with any of these things.
This is important to know.
It's Joanne, it's kind of like saying, my house is on fire, can I buy some insurance?
Right.
Or better example is, when there's a forest fire and people phone up and say, oh, can I buy some insurance on my cabin now because there's a fire nearby? Well, the insurance companies aren't dummies, so they're prepared to cover you and pay it, but you've got to do the underwriting and have the coverage in place.
Well, thank you for painting us that picture. So what about someone that may be considered hard to insure? Do they still have options? Say they haven't received a critical illness diagnosis, but they could fall into that category of a hard to insure person. How does that work?
Well, hard to insure, we have markets for that, and if they are hard to insure in regular market, we can always find some, we have access to those market, and it's not that hard to insure person is totally uninsurable. There are options around, so we can always look around.
You just pay more. So it's no difference than a house insurance. If you've got an old beat up house that it's falling down, you can get insurance, but you're going to pay a lot of premiums and get less coverage. Same thing would apply for life and disability and critical illness.
Good. Is there anything else that we need to know that could be covered by a critical illness policy?
Yeah, even when if you have something like early prostate cancer or breast cancer, early diagnosis of these are typically not shown on the critical illness coverage, but when you in the early stage, you can get some cash advances for that. You can, and your policy is still in place for other illnesses, but you can get some cash advances to cure this early stage cancers, and there are cash advances available for long-term care as well. And apart from that, while you're sick, these policies, critical illness policies, will provide you a worldwide access to the panel of doctors. So if, let's say, you're diagnosed with something and best treatment is available in Germany, so these panel of doctor would send all your reports to doctor sitting in Germany, and he will advise your doctor what is best for you and which medicine should you buy. So these are the additional features that come with this policy. Even if they're not paying you anything, but they are providing you these additional features.
Excellent. Definitely something to talk to your broker about. Let's just, we can't ignore the policy for disability insurance and what that is and how it differs from critical illness coverage. So what is disability insurance?
Well, disability insurance protects you typically against loss of income. So disability insurance can provide you with financial security by replacing a portion of your earning when an accident or illness causes you to become disabled or you may be unable to work. So this is how it works.
Joanne, for instance, we always talk about the cancer statistics. As far as disability goes, 1 in 3 people on average will be disabled for up to 90 days once before they reach the age of 65.
Really?
Yeah. So and EI covers some of that, but if you're self-employed, you may not qualify for it. Or if it's your kids that work for you, they may not qualify for it. So disability for young and older life. And again, it goes back to that point. If you're young, you should buy disability. Get some basic disability coverage in place because it's dirt cheap when you're younger.
Wow. So there are huge differences between disability insurance and critical illness.
Well, they're two different forms, right? One is
apples and oranges.
Right. Yeah. One is for accidents. I mean, the critical illness doesn't cover you if you get hit by a bus. They're covering you for a set description of coverages of specific perils that they're insuring you for. Whereas a disability, they don't care whether you get hit by a bus or you fall off the bridge or whatever. I mean, there is some exclusions on them depending on whether you're you're doing skydiving, things like that. Sometimes there's exclusions on that. But I mean, if your day-to-day living, if something unforeseen happens and you're disabled, they'll cover you.
And I don't think you realize what your day-to-day expenses are until you're sitting in a position where you're not able to use your hand or your leg or continue working or just your household chores even.
And the question is, how long does it last, right? I mean, as we say, some will be disabled, within up to 90 days, but there's people that are disabled for 2 and 3 and 5 years, so or longer. So it's something to think about.
Sure. You're listening to Experts on Call on CL 650 featuring Intact Insurance. I'm Joanne Sutton. Joining us in the studio today, we have the insurance experts with us, Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance and broker Sanjeev Katoch. Laguerre Pelling Insurance is a family-operated, full-service general insurance agency that's been serving individuals, families, and businesses since 1984. They're in Richmond, and if you have any questions about today's show or insurance questions in general, please call them or visit the website laguerrepelling.com. We've got a lot more on this topic of insurance, specifically for the business owner. That's coming up next on Experts on Call on CL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CL 650.